PlayStation 3 was released November of 2006 and has sold over 85 million units to date. The PS3 has a library of over 1,000 games and counting, as many games are still available on this system. However, a handful of games that are getting harder to come by, and even some are becoming extremely rare on the PS3. For this list, however, I have excluded all limited edition and collector items that were really meant to be rare and exclusive, therefore don't really qualify as rare games because they were only limited on purpose. Also, some of these games as of right now may actually be cheap to buy, as the demand for them is not risen yet, as they've not been out terribly too long. So if you see any of the games on this list for cheap, make sure you snag them up because they might be pricey down the road. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump right in with our first game, Hyperdimension Neptunia. Released on November 19th, 2010, Hyperdimension Neptunia is an RPG developed by Idea Factory. Now, it's a typical JRPG, as in this game gained a decent following and has even had many sequels, including titles for both the PS Vita and the PS4. However, the original print run of the first game was a low print run copy. Couple that with the rising demand for fans of the series, and you have a semi-rare game on your hands. If you want to get your hands on a complete copy, it will still cost you around $45. Next up, we have Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Now, it seems that almost every time a Marvel vs. Capcom game is released, it makes its way onto one of these lists. Now, this game, however, was originally slated to just be DLC for Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Fate of Two Worlds, but due to the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan, the development schedule was thrown drastically off. It was later decided to just make it into a standalone title for a discounted price. The game is decently hard to come by these days and is in high demand, is what makes it worth so much. A complete copy will still cost you around $40 to $45. Our next game is a Zelda Clone developed by Atlas. Released on May 11, 2010, 3D Game Heroes is sort of a hidden gem on the PS3. It borrows heavily from the ideas of the 8 and 16-bit Zelda games that we all know and love. This game is a PlayStation exclusive, and on top of that, it is an Atlas game, so the print numbers were never that high. The game did have somewhat good sales, so prices are not that high at the moment, but people are starting to snatch this game up again and buy it, so now would be a good time to buy it up when it only costs around $20 or so for a complete copy. Another game developed by Idea Factory makes our list at number 7. Cross Edge is another RPG that was released in 2008 in Japan and later in 2009 in North America. The plot involves rescuing souls and the ability to address your female characters and players in party-wide variety of outfits, coupled with typical turn-based RPG elements. The North American release saw a limited print run. However, again, the game gained a good-sized following, making demand for the title quite high. A complete copy goes around $40 today.
Are you okay?
Next up is Folklore, which is an action RPG game developed by Game Republic and published by Sony in 2007. Players control characters in a third-person view to both explore the surroundings and engage in combat. From the start, the players have a choice to play the game as either of the two lead protagonists, the young woman Ellen or the journalist Keats. Both have different yet intertwining plots and play styles. The game was a very early release on the system and did not sell all that well, making it harder to come by these days. Again, this game hasn't shot up in price just yet, so snag it while you can while it's still $20 to $25 in bargain bins. Most of the time, sports games become some of the most common and cheapest titles on a given system, but every now and then a certain title can demand a super high price. NCAA Basketball 2010 is one such example. Developed and published by EA and released in 2009, later that year EA announced that they were officially canceling the NCAA Basketball series, and many think it was due to the backlash of students' likeness being used but not being compensated. Anyway, due to it being one of the last of a series, demand has skyrocketed and the game routinely goes for over $45 today.
Gus Johnson here alongside Bill Raftery.
Coming in at number 4 is Demon Souls, which is developed by From Software and released in 2009. It's an action RPG game. It's actually the first in the now very popular Souls series that has had many sequels, most recently Dark Souls 3 on the PS4. As players kill demons, they gain their souls, which act as currency that can be used to buy, repair, and upgrade weapons and increase player statistics and strength, such as luck, endurance, and others. When a player is killed during a level, they are sent to the beginning of the level with all non-boss enemies respawned. And if the player returns to soul form with lower maximum health and the loss of the unused souls. If the player somehow manages to reach their bloodstain at the point where they were last killed, they regain their lost souls. Very interesting mechanic there. I've never seen anything like that before. However, if you're taken down before you get there, you lose everything permanently. Now, the original black label print of this game was relatively low for such a popular game. They did reprint a greatest hits version of the disc, but if you want the original black print copy, it will still cost you around $50. Next up is an early game released on the PS3, developed by Rhino Studios and published by Natsume. Africa is a safari and photography simulator released on the PS3 in 2009. Similar to the popular Pokemon Snap game on the N64, the player must take interesting snapshots of the wildlife in Africa. As you can imagine, the game is sold extremely poorly, making it one of the hardest PS3 games to run across in the wild. A complete copy will cost you around $60. In our runner-up spot is Class of Heroes 2G, which is an RPG dungeon crawler game. It was originally released in Japan back in 2010, however a Kickstarter project was instigated by Monkey Paw Games and Ganjin Works to fund the localization and production of a digital and extremely limited print physical copy. It is estimated that only 2,400 physical copies of the game were ever printed, and they were exclusive to certain websites that helped promote the Kickstarter. Getting your hands on one now is kind of getting harder to do. You can still find them online, but they will cost you over $125. And finally, our number one rarest PlayStation 3 game goes to NBA Elite 2011, another basketball game developed by EA. This game was supposed to succeed the NBA Live series, but this game soon ran into many troubles. The developers were given the task of coming up with a whole new control scheme from NBA Live and were only given 18 months to finish the whole game. Due to this, the game was full of glitches and bugs. There was actually a demo available to download on Xbox Live and PSN that was made famous by the Andrew Bynum Jesus glitch, where he stood center court, arms and legs spread like Jesus on a cross. Anyway, the game was so shaky that EA decided to cancel it just days before it was scheduled to launch. It was recalled and all copies of games were said to be destroyed. However, a handful of print retail copies somehow made their way onto the market. Less than 10 are rumored to exist. The last one sold for over $1,000. So there you guys have it, the rarest games on the PS3. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button, as it helps me out a ton when you guys like the video and share them with your friends. And let's try to hit 500 likes. Also, if you guys are into more rare game videos, make sure to subscribe and check out my rare games playlist. I've done videos on tons of systems like the N64, NES, Game Boy, Sega, Atari, and many, many more. So make sure you guys check those out. Links will be in the description. But anyway, guys, remember that's always K-Mac time somewhere. Until then, take it easy, and peace out.